Okay, great. So, so welcome. And as I said, I'm Morenke Odurungbe. I know there's some new faces here. And I'm a programs coordinator at SDSN Canada for new people who have just recently joined the community. SDSN Canada is a national network based at the University of Waterloo, where we look to engage in Canada's colleges and universities to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. And today I'm joined by my colleagues, Jacqueline and Kaylee. Both of you can give a wave to our amazing community of practice. Bill, our colleague, has sent his apologies. He is not able to join us here today. So today's conversation is part of the Teaching the SDG community of practice we have formed as a network, which is meant to inspire, share best practices and resources, and also create a community for those teaching or those interested in teaching on Canada's big sustainability challenges and the SDGs. And before I go on or continue this conversation, I would like to begin by acknowledging that SDSN Canada is situated at the University of Waterloo, which is on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Hardeman Track, the land granted to 6 nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. The university's active work towards reconciliation takes place across all of its campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is centralized at the Office of the Indigenous Relations. Once we acknowledge the land, this reminds us that Canada's achievements are directly related to the resources and friendship of Indigenous peoples, and that we must all push for Transformation Act over the coming decade towards reconciliation and justice. Recognizing that we are coming to this conversation from different lands, I invite you all to please introduce yourself in the chat box and also share about whose lands you find yourself in today. My colleague Haley is going to be putting the link in the chat box for those who might want to find their lands today. And since today is a networking session, there's no agenda, and I hope everybody's as excited as I am. I'm hoping we can all connect. It's a growing community. I want to hear from everyone what you've been working on, the super amazing work you've been doing, and most importantly, everyone collaborating with each other and just finding it as a safe place where you can discuss whatever issues you might be having in your classroom on teaching the SDGs more generally. But before we go into the breakout room, and as I said, it's a growing community. I want to hear feedback from everyone. I'm going to be launching a quick poll to hear your thoughts on themes we can explore as a community this year. Whatever topics you think would be good for us to learn more about, and just please kindly put it in the poll. The poll is divided in such a way where we have themes we have selected for the year, and then the second question would give you an opportunity to actually put whatever topic or themes you would like us to explore. And also, I'm also going to use this opportunity to extend an invitation to anyone in the group right now who is interested in presenting on a particular topic and you want to share your findings with us or lead on an activity. We'd love to hear from you. So I'll be launching the quick poll and give us some minutes to actually respond. Can everybody see the poll? A thumbs up, great. Thank you. Thank you all for your thoughts, yes. Incorporating the SDGs into course design. Okay, great. So I'm going to be ending the poll now and sharing the results in a minute. Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Great. So I'm also going to put the polls, if you've not had the chance to share whatever topics or whatever your ideas, I'm going to put in it in the Teams group, and you have an opportunity to also just elaborate on what ideas or topics you want us to explore going forward as a community. So now, thank you all for your responses. I'm going to be opening up the breakout rooms. And just as a conversation starter, please introduce yourself. Tell us what institution where you're located, what you've been working on, and any innovations or any new project you're working on in your classroom that you think other people might benefit from in the community. So I'm going to be opening up the breakout rooms. We're going to be in breakout rooms for 30 minutes, and thereafter we're going to come back. So see everyone soon. Going to be launching now. Okay.
Great, thank you. So just to start off some of the conversation, I don't know if we all kind of want to introduce ourselves and maybe why we're interested in entering this group and what kinds of ideas with SDGs you might have worked with in classrooms or in academia before. So yeah, I can start off. My name is Jacqueline and I work for SDSN. I work for SDSN, but I'm also a PhD student at the University of Waterloo in sustainability management. My background's in communication studies, so I care about, the interdisciplinary nature of sustainability and also how we communicate those things and make people feel included in what sustainable lifestyles are. So that's kind of like where I'm at, still moving into the teaching part, so hoping to learn from you guys as well. And that's about me.
Should we just jump in or? Okay, hi everyone. My name's Crystal Tremblay. I'm calling in from Lekwungen Territories in Victoria at the University of Victoria. I'm faculty here in the Department of Geography. This is my first call with this group, so nice to meet you all. It's been on my radar for quite a while now, so yeah, excited to learn and hear from others. I've been, I guess, working with the SDGs for quite a while. I teach a community-based participatory research course, which is focused on addressing a range of the, environmental, social justice concerns in our community. It's a partnership with the Victoria Native Friendship Centre and Victoria Foundation. So we've done about 3 years of that course. And since March of last year, UVic launched CFAL Victoria, which is a training institute, part of United Nations Institute for Training and Research to advance the Sustainable Development Goals. So I took on the directorship in May. So it's been a very busy time building capacity here to launch new courses and that. So yeah, I guess I'll end there, but nice to meet you all.
I can go. Yeah, it's funny. My boss, I had this on my radar in my mind, but I hadn't written it down. So I'm just kind of hopping in, but super happy to be here. I work at McMaster University in the Global Health Office, and I feel like we're always sort of embedding the SDGs in the teaching to our students in the way that we even categorize what the students are up to. Like we have scholarly papers, for example, at the end of the year, and we make the students categorize them into an SDG, and it really helps them kind of orient themselves a little bit deeper into sort of the bigger, wider scope of the goals of the SDGs. So it's been, I think over the past 3 years, it's been helpful to start to really continually address what it is that we're doing and why, and asking them to figure that out for themselves as well.
Okay, I'll jump in. Hi, my name is Kent Williams. I'm come here from the sacred and traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. I always love I love the land acknowledgement and really put meaning to it, and really think about this idea of reciprocity and interdependence. And this really brings to me why I guess I'm here. This idea of interdependence and reciprocity. How do we build? I'm really interested in my research. I'm presently researching this term. I'm not teaching, which is really nice, and I'm working on a SHRC Insight grant. We're really looking at sustainable pathways at our university and how it connects to our connected communities. And even looking beyond that, I'm really interested in how do we build networks that can really enable impact research and practice. And really, it's got me thinking, how can we really disrupt kind of old ways of knowing, being, and doing in the world? I think that we'll all recognize that the way we've been teaching isn't probably the most thoughtful way when we consider sustainable development on our planet. And so I'm really interested in those questions, and how can, just building these networks, how can we leverage this collective way of thinking together? So thank you for allowing me to connect with you today.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to go next? Yeah,
I can go. So I'm Sarah McQuillan. I'm the International Co-op and Career Coordinator at the University of Victoria. And I have a long time ago in my other career, I was a teacher. So I still have my BC teaching certificate. So I'm actually taking a continuing ed course right now on teaching through the Sustainable Development Goals lens. Through Queen's University. It's a really interesting course. I'm doing this for my own position because we have students complete a pre-departure course before they do their international co-op work terms. And in that course, we added a module on SDGs. And I'm designing it right now, some curriculum for that. So this course has been really helpful to inform what I'm doing in that module. So it's been great. So just looking for ways also for students to think about when they're on their international co-op work terms, how can they help to advance the SDGs while they're in that experience. So that's so I'm really excited to be here and learn from all of you, and Crystal, connect with you because of course I heard all the great, I'm looking into all the great things CFAL's doing also. So it's so exciting. We have CFAL at Vic. So nice to meet you.
You want me to volunteer next? Wonderful. Well, first I want to say hello to everybody from Vancouver Island as well. I'm now in Victoria, and I also want to say hello to our ginger furry addition to the group, who just recently tried to join the call and was put down next to feet rather than probably wanting to sit in warm paws on keyboard, if they're anything like my two. I have some crazy things to announce, but let's see. First, I'll introduce myself. I'm Professor Marie-Claire Cordonnier-Seger. I'm a law professor who, up until the end of December, was Leverhulme Trust visiting professor at the University of Cambridge in the UK, hence the wetland in the background, and also a full professor at the School of Environment, Enterprise and Development, and a member of the founding sort of management committee of SDSN Canada. And I kind of came up with this idea of a teaching community of practice because I was really wondering what was going on in our field when all the criminal law professors get together once a week and once a year, and there's like sort of thousands of them. And I didn't even know who the other people were that taught across Canada the SDGs. So I've been so happy to see how this has grown, and especially Ramota and the others being able to take it on and make it happen. But in January, I moved. I now have a visiting chair at the University of Cambridge in Sustainable Development Law. So that's kind of interesting. And paired with that, I was given a chance to choose a university in Canada. And I've just accepted a professorship at the law faculty at UVic. So I'm now in Victoria, where I grew up, and really loving it. So the exciting bit, that's why I'm and where I am. And I will learn the land acknowledgement, because it's very different in the Fens of Cambridge than it is here in Victoria, where we're on, I know Lekwungen and Songhees land, but I don't know the proper protocol yet because I arrived 2 days ago. And I'm hoping that Crystal or Sarah could help me. And the Sustainable Development Law Chair is actually developing the first legal textbook in our field on sustainable development law. Just because life sometimes doesn't work quite the way you want, I had committed to a visiting professorship at Yale Law School during these 2 months. So I'm finishing that up before fully arriving in Victoria. And I'm testing the textbook for Oxford University Press. So the Yale law students are really helping. And they are very good at, I mean, one of the things I wanted to share with the community, and I'll raise it in a second, just has to do with their reaction to what we call the legal critics, the critical legal theorists, which I had assigned, and I might not do again, because my students are unimpressed, which is interesting. And maybe it's the SDG frame that helps us get to, yeah, but what's your solution? And that's where my students are all at, especially the ones who are from the Global South. They are so unimpressed with, yeah, just, criticism without solutions. And it's been really interesting to see, actually. I didn't expect that. I expected them to feel this was their voice. I mean, many of the legal crits are also working with or actually from the Global South, but no. So that was something that I thought would be interesting to share with you. And then the other thing I wanted to just outline is that our mandate for 5 years with the Cambridge and UVic chair is to help to explain and assist and support in the implementation of the treaties that have been written that contain obligations, including from developed countries especially, and other institutions, on the SDGs. And in particular, we're assisting those who can't afford to go like time as well as like lifetime, as well as money to go and do a residential degree somewhere, especially in the highly climate vulnerable countries, which are of course about 140 of the 200. And so what we're trying to do is to assist them in getting access nonetheless to training on the legal aspects of implementing the treaties. And the reason there's that step through between, wanting to address sustainable development and wanting to do it in a way that also implements treaty obligations is that there are binding support mechanisms and binding reporting mechanisms that their countries have agreed to, and no one's been assisting them with actual training and courses on how to implement, not unless they're able to take 2 years away and go to Cambridge and do a degree, or go somewhere and do a degree. And so that's the bit that we're trying to help with, mainly through online learning, but also through, like you, communities of practice, because we are essentially aware that a course doesn't do much unless you actually have a cohort and you can help each other afterward. And that for government officials and policymakers and lawmakers and elected officials, people who really cannot leave their current job in Nigeria or in Botswana or in, University of West Indies hosted Caribbean network, they can't go away for 2 years. And so what they're doing instead is using our chair to kind of try to bridge some of those gaps, but to put them into that community practice that meets around the COP, including usually online, for the various treaties that are delivering the SDGs. So I'm sorry for being a little bit long, but I thought I wanted to share that sort of global element. I love what the rest of you were talking about already, and we are doing some of that you've already spoken about it. So I didn't want to kind of go into that as well. But yeah, welcome any questions if there's once everyone's had a chance to introduce themselves.
Thank you. That's great. Does anyone else want to go next? Yeah, great.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julia Burke. I'm at the University of Waterloo, and I'm on the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee people. I work here at the Center for Teaching Excellence, and I support instructors in the Faculty of Environment and also parts of the Faculty of Arts. And I'll be having a workshop coming up next week, helping instructors navigate how to design new assessments with assessment, or redesign assessments with sustainability in mind, and the SDGs are one of those frameworks that they can be doing, and was inspired by some of the work at York around teaching with the SDGs. I've also recently started my PhD with a focus on sustainability education, and connecting to what Kent Williams was saying around, like, how are we really engaging in the courses and the opportunities we have to connect with students, to look at the ways of being and doing and knowing, and how can we engage in a more transformative way to lead to and move as part of this, the great transition and moving towards these sustainable goals and more sustainable futures. And so I'm really looking at how can we tackle this kind of at the curriculum, at the course design level, to have more transformative experiences happening within our classes. And I've taught an environmental citizenship course for a long time, and so that also informs a lot of my insights. Just seeing how students have changed just on that really, student by student basis, and seeing how they kind of start seeing the world differently. Thanks so much.
I can go next. I'm Aditi. I'm on Treaty 6 territory in the homeland of the Métis, which is in Saskatoon. And I'm on the banks of the South Saskatchewan River. And this river has supported our community for a long time. And I'm really thankful for access to that river throughout the city. It's a public access throughout. So it's a beautiful place if you ever come visit. I see a few nods, so maybe folks have been here. I'm at the University of Saskatchewan in the Teaching and Learning Center. And my role is similar to Julia. I support sustainability in the curriculum and co-curricularly this year. So it's been a full plate. And I just spent my morning with our 6 faculty fellows of sustainability. So my head is a little bit mush, and apologies for my eating my lunch and trying to manage my day. And after this, I'm meeting with the Dean of Arts and Science to talk about sustainability. But I think this morning was really reassuring for me with these 6 fellows who are in different colleges, different units across the university. We're doing a reflection on the last year. Our fellowship is a 2-year program. And so what have they accomplished in the last year? What worked, what didn't work, what held them back, what moved them forward? What did they learn? What would they do differently? And just hearing the positive connotations that folks are still feeling and encouraged and motivated to do work. A lot of them, and all of them, embedded SDGs into their learning outcomes. They had intentional design about how to embed the SDGs in their courses, how students were going to reflect on it, using rubrics for good reflection, finding supportive colleagues. All of that was really motivating. So I feel like I've wind in my sails right now to keep moving forward for the next year, and where they want to be a year from now, helping folks think about how to track student competencies. So we have student competencies in sustainability. I'll put the link in the chat if folks are interested in looking at those. And I've put these into ICANN statements just to be helpful for students. But yeah, thinking about how are we going to measure that, track that? How do we want to help others come along on this journey? What are the change management aspects that we need to have to help grow the fellowship from just a group of 6 individuals to a desired state where all USask graduates have the mindset, heart set, skill set to work on social, environmental, and economic development. Thanks.
There's only a few of us left. Shall I go next? Okay. So I'm Alistair Edgar. I'm like Julia, who's at UW. I'm at Laurier, so I'm on the territories of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee. I always butcher those names, and I apologize for that. I'm 30 years at Laurier this year, which makes me feel incredibly old. My hip and my knee tell me that all the time. And Mary Claire, that was one of our 6 rescue cats and 2 rescue dogs who inhabit this place. So you might get to see more of them. And they always try to show up on screen. I spent 15 years working for a think tank that kind of ran parallel to the UN and did a lot of work with the SecGen's office. So I kind of went through the MDGs and SDGs from if you want, from the inside, the negotiation process and all that sort of stuff. So that obviously tied, and people like John Ruggie, the Global Compact. So I've done a lot of work with Global Compact Network Canada on trying to get corporate people to understand what the SDGs are and how the SDGs matter positively to their bottom line and that sort of stuff. So that's sort of the practice side. I did that through to 2018, and then came back to Laurier and to the Balsillie School of International Affairs full time. So I'm on the teaching side. I teach in poli-sci second year, third year, and undergrad, and I teach the SDGs into those classes. Startling number, vast majority of undergraduates have never heard of either the MDGs or the SDGs when I start them at second year, which is mildly depressing. But getting them into doing that. So I'm teaching at those levels, and at the Balsillie School, the Master of International Public Policy, the MIP program. Those are students who go out into practice, into policy work, and many of them are working with ideas around the SDGs, mostly in Government of Canada, but some in the UN system as well. The last thing I'd just say, with a couple of other faculty members, Tim Denay, who's at Laurier, and Kirsten Van Houten, who's now at Winnipeg. She was at U of Ottawa before. We've just finished an edited volume on SDG 16 for Routledge. A lot of my work is on mass atrocity crimes, peace building, that sort of stuff. So SDG 16 on peaceful, just and inclusive societies has been a lot of where my work has been. So that's just been sent off to Routledge, and we're hoping that somebody somewhere might adopt that for a course. We'll see. Anyway, that's the stuff I've been working on. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm sorry for joining a few minutes late. I'm Mindy Summers. I'm an associate professor at the University of Calgary. So I'm joining from the traditional territories of the people of the Treaty 7 region in southern Alberta. And I teach in biological sciences, and I've been exploring all of my courses focus on biodiversity. And so for the past few years, I've been really focused on how to get students out understanding biodiversity here in the city of Calgary and connecting with our community partners. And the area that I'm really interested in growing into over the past 6 years, I've collaborated with our Office of Sustainability in the co-curricular space. So how to get students engaged in the SDGs and bringing in students from beyond biology. So I've been trying to grow and better understand business, law, and policy, and how we can bring those aspects into our biology courses. I'm currently the chair of our curriculum review, and one of the program learning outcomes we're exploring is sustainability. So I was also really excited to see all of these resources in terms of what course learning outcomes or what program learning outcomes could look like in our program. And so, yes, I'm really excited to be here and learn from others, and definitely coming from the biodiversity side, particularly urban biodiversity and what cities can do in terms of supporting SDGs.
Great, thank you. I think the only person, I think James is the only last person potentially.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I'm in between lunch and office hours. I just came from lecture. I'm really excited to meet all of you, and shout out to my Waterloo colleagues here. I teach introductory environmental studies courses. I teach the core course and helped Brendan Larson develop our diploma in sustainability, which all students in every faculty can take, which is really nice. And so then they take the core course, and we do introduce them to the SDGs there. I'm sort of a skeptic in some ways of the SDGs. I sort of fear that the SDGs become what we keep talking about rather than kind of what's driving these problems and perhaps the solutions. But I realize it's a good stepping stone and a framework for kind of introducing a lot of students who might not otherwise rub up against sustainability or think about it in global terms to these processes. I also went through the Millennium Development Goals, and as a student of critical development studies, we had lots of problems with that as well. But I'm still optimistic that this can be something that kind of gives hope and inspires students to want to learn more and get engaged. So I'm really curious to see some of the ways that all of you are applying it to your courses and to your campuses. So thanks so much.
Thank you. So I think that was everyone. I'm not sure if we missed anyone, but I think we have some time now if anyone wants to ask any questions about projects that people have discussed so far. So yeah, I'll leave the floor open for that.
I just have a question around building a bit on what Mindy was saying around kind of getting into some across discipline work. I guess wondering if people have thoughts of how to engage across disciplines, how to collaborate, how to make some of this happen. I mean, the SDGs themselves are very transdisciplinary, but working in institutions, working in universities, we really like having our departments and our faculties. So I'd love to hear insights on that work.
I'll throw one thing out, which is the experience of working at the Balsillie School. I love being here. It's a great institution. And for those who don't know, it's a combined institution of University of Waterloo and Wilfrid Laurier University, as well as working with a think tank, the Centre for International Governance Innovation, CG, all funded by, as the name Balsillie, Jim Balsillie, one of the co-founders of Black Barrier Research in Motion. And we are multi and interdisciplinary internally, which means that neither university knows what the heck to do with us, which is a fascinating experience. Our time is given over to the Balsillie School, and we have research clusters that include science, tech, mathematics, biology, as well as poli-sci, law, human rights people, and a good variety of students doing those things. The interesting challenge for us is when it comes to dealing with university administration, because, as I said, they don't know who belongs to whom, and they do want people to belong to departments. So my favorite example of that, just really quickly, is this is administrative hoo-ha. I was the associate dean. There is no dean because we have multiple faculties working together, and none of them would agree to be under a particular dean of arts or science or humanities or anything else. So one of the interesting challenges of being what we are, which I think is actively interdisciplinary, is that the siloed universities don't have a clue. It works on the basis of good feeling and general willingness to support, but administratively, the apparatus above us still doesn't know how to cope with that. So anyway, if anybody wants to come down to the Balsillie School and look around, you're welcome to. It's won sustainability awards for its design and architecture, but we still haven't figured out how to actually order paper clips.
I see, Aditi, you've got your hand up before I figured out where my hand was. So do you want to go first while I put mine up and get into the queue?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I was going to add to that effect. We found it more effective to go through a faculty council. So we have different councils that are run by faculty. And so the Teaching and Learning Academic Council is what we went through as a mechanism for getting both so to say we have been legitimized by faculty, and also to get that focus of who is this under, who is responsible for this, who do we report to? Because I have also found that to be critical to advance the work. It needs to have a home that you're reporting to on a regular basis so that it feels legitimate. It feels that folks are talking about it, right? You need to socialize and mobilize the idea. So that's the avenue that we went, was through our Teaching and Learning Council. And to add to that, I'd also say it happened to have good synergy that our university created a chief sustainability officer. So while that might be perceived as a token position, it does provide a certain structure to the work.
Thank you.
Yeah, I could add a couple of thoughts. One of them is that it's not like I feel like I'm pushing on an open door. You know, my undergraduate degree for this is going back a long time, but before law was an interdisciplinary studies degree. I think it might have been one of the first ones in the country. I had to move all the way past the Rockies, out east to the scary central Canadian, even worse, eastern Ottawa, in order to take it. And Alistair, having been involved in the BSIA, and I think I'm currently one of your senior fellows or something. Yeah, the idea and the recognition has come so far in one lifetime. You know, I was a student, undergrad student at UVic. I was trying to do 4 majors. They were required because of the different programs I was in. Co-op, you had to be a major, etc. Environmental studies, there's no way I was giving up international. And so I did find that it's changing just over time. And sometimes just reaching out and inviting them to list your courses as approved electives in all the different faculties that are relevant to the SDGs. And oh my goodness, this is a long list. You get some amazing students coming in, and it builds those networks informally. So that's kind of I agree with all the problems you've just highlighted, and also the, you know, what you're doing to work on it. And I would add to that, you know, taking the step of just reaching to all the different faculties, letting them know this is happening, inviting them to list it as an approved elective, and then watching as the students kind of vote with their feet. I am seeing that in Yale. It's actually kind of neat. I've got students from 6 faculties taking a law course. And they're awesome.
I think we are leaving in 5 seconds. Thank you so much for all of your thoughts, everyone. It's been great to meet you.
Perspectives related to the to a sustainable development goal, and they do a collaborative project with that. And then the other thing that I'm just going to mention is I'm currently just trying to get involvement on campus for the upcoming SDG Week Canada event, the programming that's across Canada in universities and colleges, and that's proving to be very interesting and a bit of work. So I'm also interested in hearing how that's going for others if you are doing the same.
I could jump in here. This is my first meeting. Hello, Lynn Ferguson. I am a sessional instructor. So on the side, I am teaching at McMaster, have for a decade or so, in strategic philanthropy. It's an experiential course. The students get about $10,000 from Warren Buffett's sister Doris, has a foundation, the Learning by Giving Foundation. So rather than her granting the funds directly, she grants the funds to various classes. Ours is the only one in Canada. There's some 35 others in the US. And then the students are going through a process of learning about nonprofits and the local community and determining where to grant those funds. So I have also taught CSR, corporate social responsibility and sustainability, in the MBA program. I'm interested in framing the work that we're doing with the SDG goals. So I have not done that yet, but keen to learn from other folks about how best to do that. So really interested in the experiential question that came up on the poll earlier. I will mention I've also been involved in co-creating a course in social innovation. Leveraging the nonprofits locally were part of framing what that course would be. And in the end, they were given the option of participating in that course. And the nonprofits decided that yes, not just one topic was of interest, but that they would sit alongside the students for the duration of the term and participate in this social innovation course for the learning. And so that's actually being extended across Canada through United Ways and other post-secondary institutions. It too should tie into the SDGs. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Jump in. My name is Houston Peschel. I'm an associate professor at the Haskayne School of Business at the University of Calgary. I'm on sabbatical right now with my main focus. I published a paper on the principles of responsible management education and how well our business schools performed across Canada, and specifically how well they embed UN SDGs. And that has led me to designing a new first-year mandatory course for all of our BComs. We have about 800 to 1,000 a year that is focused on combining the UN SDGs, IDGs, and the design thinking methodology called Design Your Life. So the students can, from year one, understand how they best can kind of design their life for a sense of purpose and meaning. So that'll launch fall 2023. And on this other research project is to design an open educational resource for our campus on the UN SDGs on how to use them to teach in the classrooms. So it's easier for faculty who might not be clear on how to do that. We're just creating a resource for all of our faculty in the business school. So if you're teaching accounting, you can easily select things, whether it's case studies or teaching notes or videos. So we're just wrapping that open educational resource up. Thanks.
I can get next. Hi, everyone. My name is Nitima Bhatia, and I am a second-year PhD student at York University at the Faculty of Education, and I'm also the project coordinator for Curricular Innovation Hub at York University, which is a AIF Academic Innovation Fund project, where we are trying to infuse SDGs into our classrooms and curriculum. I was involved in the creation of a toolkit that's for faculty, whereas Houston was talking about creating case studies and like having resources. So we have created a toolkit where we have resources related to most of the disciplines that we have at York. So you can find this resources related to maths, you can find resources related to language, education, like different disciplines. And also we have resources specific to each SDGs, case studies, videos, reports, infographics. So yeah, so I was involved in that. So we also created some curricular champion videos where professors or faculty members that are already infusing SDGs, they are talking about how they did it and what was that the impact of doing that in their classroom. So we also have those videos. So yeah, that's about me. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm David Ha. I'm at the University of Waterloo, this side here. I teach in the School of Accounting and Finance, and I had the fun recently of teaching an Emerging Issues in Marketing and Management course for our Masters of Accounting students. So one of the pitches I give to them and their end of term project is based on the theme of how can accountants actually save the world? So I think it's kind of a funny phrase, right? You might assume that, you know what, can they actually do anything about what's going on in the world today? And I challenge the students to say, what can you bring to the table as you're working towards your professional examinations? And what do you do beyond that as well, in terms of how you're able to kind of shape business, the economy, and society based on what you're doing? So having fun exploring those topics with them. We dive a lot into sustainability, ESG reporting, some of the standards that are either out there currently or what's upcoming. And then I'm now trying to introduce them more into this world of understanding the UN SDGs and how that plays a role in maybe where they'll be working and how they can really lean on those in terms of shaping their career.
Louis, I think you and I are the only ones left here. Do you want to go?
I can go. I think I got the gist of it. We're doing introductions. So my name is Luis Patricio. I work at the Pillar Nonprofit Network. Nice to see some familiar faces and make some new friends. I run the SDG Cities program here in London, and we work with a lot of training in terms of SDGs, raising awareness, how to use them for impact measurement, storytelling, and a bunch of other things. We started that training for nonprofit organizations and social enterprises. We've done now 2 cohorts with undergrad students in different disciplines. So not from a campus-wide perspective, but working with specific courses and how to integrate the SDGs in their course, including philosophy of food, social injustice, equity issues, environmental stewardship, and a few others. And I also teach at your university. I teach the environmental stewardship course, and then I use the SDGs to bring the social economic lens. So I guess most of us are doing this. It's like shedding a light to the other aspects of the integration aspect of the SDGs. So obviously focus on the environmental issues, but then trying to connect that to how does this address the social issues, and what are the economic implications of whatever solutions we discuss in the class.
Hi, everyone. So good to hear from everyone. Wow, we've been working on so many great things. My name is Shamta Hunter. I'm from University of British Columbia. It's pouring outside right now, and I'm a sessional here, as well as I work with the Sustainability Hub as a manager of transformative learning and sustainability engagement. As a sessional, I'm kind of teaching in the teacher education program, so I teach environmental education and a lot of the instruction and curriculum courses. My interest and passion lies in curriculum and pedagogy. So one of the research projects that I'm working on currently is developing kindness-informed pedagogical framework for climate education and for the SDGs. And I'm so immersed in it, and it's so fun to bring this up with the teacher candidates and to bring the kindness informed pedagogical ways to really engage with the SDGs. And so I would love to talk more about it in some other forum, but so many different ways to engage with it. And I try and bring as much SDG conversations as I can within my teaching, primarily through assignments, action-oriented experiential learning as well. And I would love to hear more about how other people are doing it, so I can inform my teaching.
So does anyone want to share anything that has sparked their interest of recent in their classroom that you think other people can learn from? Who wants to go first? I'm sure there's something unique about your classroom and how you've done it. It has been working over time. So I'm guessing, don't be shy, please just contribute to this conversation and get other people's feedback and see if they can adopt that as well in their own classes.
I can share an exercise that I started doing a couple of years ago, and it seems to be very helpful for the students to kind of understand. And sometimes you're talking about the principles and integration, and it's all connected, but what does that actually mean? One thing that I do is like we choose a topic, and usually I let the students choose a topic that they are interested about. Obviously, environmental stewardship, so we're looking at environmental challenge. And then we try to frame that challenge locally to our city. I'm based in London, Ontario. And from there, after we talk about the SDGs and go through the 17 SDGs and, kind of look at the themes and how they're categorized within the SDG framework, we leave it there on that class, and in the next class, we come back and we look at the topic. Their homework is to try to think about it through all the SDGs, right? So we come back and we do like a whole class discussion, and we go SDG by SDG, looking at the impacts of that specific SDG on the topic at hand. One of the examples that we did, we were looking at transportation and GHG emissions, one of the number one source of emissions. And we did a comparative analysis of bicycles versus electric vehicles. So if you had a policy who really wanted to go full force implementing one or the other, what would be the impact for poverty and hunger and health and all the other SDGs? I find it, the students find it very, they always get surprised to each other's contributions. And I think this is very helpful to kind of really get a full picture of what the SDGs look like.
I think that's great, Luis, to make the point of the interconnected aspects of the SDGs. I think that's something that I've been very aware of, like with the students, like like sometimes they sort of focus or your course may focus on like one, but really you have to keep in mind the interconnected aspects. So that sounds like a great activity that highlights that for the students in a very practical, like real way. We can all understand, transportation, in a very practical sense.
I'd be very interested in hearing more about the IDGs from Calgary. How to integrate that to the SDGs and the Design Your Life.
Yeah, so what we're seeing a lot of our undergrads getting to like third or fourth year, and they've usually selected their kind of focus. Typically it's accounting. A lot of our majors are accounting and finance just due to what Calgary hires, but they're either driven into that due to their parents' starting salaries or just misunderstanding of what that job role is. And so what we've realized is the mental health of our students also starts to degrade when they realize that they've spent 2 or 3 years and they go to their first internship and they're like, oh, this is not for me. So I've reflected on that for the last 10 years of teaching and decided to, through the BCom redesign, to we have to start at the first year showing them about, values and what their meaning is. And Stanford has an amazing program called Design Your Life. And I want to take chunks of that. And then when the IDGs came out, it just kind of really sung true to say, I think if we start at a younger in our education system, if we start embedding this idea of the IDGs, that behavior change, and recognizing that it is a journey and maybe not direct. And so the way I'm doing that is I'm going around and collecting videos from a documentary filmmaker who would go and we talk to alumni or current students and show their path. And then we highlight where those IDGs skills are showing up in their career path. And so we're showing it with people who are their age, not like gray-haired old white dudes, but like actually making a very good job at representing what they see in their classroom, and trying to highlight business leaders that are unique and have had very different paths, but drawing on the IDGs to say, you can see how they use this skill to help them navigate the complexities of their career or their academic life. And the hope is that they'll find their tribe a little bit more, to see that it is a little bit more challenging and you have to work at it, and that it's okay to fail, that if you want to be something or you thought you wanted to be something coming in year one, but you go out doing something different, that's totally fine. It's not considered failure. So we're trying to set that up early stage, and we're doing that by supporting them through alumni and a mentorship program. So yeah, it might sound like a dog's breakfast right now because I'm just in the middle of designing all the modules and readings and all that, but it's been a fun project. So I'd be happy to chat about that offline if you're interested, because I'm quite passionate about the IDGs being something to really help behavior change and fuel kind of confidence and resiliency in our students.
Thank you. I'll certainly follow up.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Houston. I don't know too much about the IDGs, but I work a lot with the competencies, and it's to transformative learning through the competencies. Seems like there's a lot of commonalities between the two. So I would love to talk to you more about that and see your approach and how it intersects and aligns with the competencies approach.
sorry, Shanta, is that the 8 sustainability key competencies that you work with, or it's another? Yeah, those.
Yeah, yeah. But I have over the years sort of adapted. I mean, not, you know, they're the UN, UNESCO SDGs that are linked, the 8 key ones that are linked with the SDGs. But then I've kind of sort of created my own set of competencies by bringing in the social innovation competencies into it, the 21st century competencies, to create a set of 15 lot to kind of you know, kind of throw it at students, but also I'm trying to figure out how do we scaffold, how do we think about this in a logical sense, and IDGs seems like a good way, because it seems like what I'm looking at, it's very much the similar skill sets that we are wanting to develop. Or 23, okay, but those are skills, or are they competencies?
I think they're pretty broad. They are divided like in 5. Am I correct?
Okay.
In 5 like big areas. You can, like, it's easy to find them online in your development goals. It seems to me that when you're looking at them online, they have the framework and they did some research to kind of find what are the skills, but they still didn't have the specific tools on how to actually employ the IDGs, and that's why I was curious about the Calgary experience. I know they're hosting another event this year, international event. You can attend in person or you can just attend online, and it's much cheaper, obviously. And I think they're now starting to like dive into what does that actually look like in terms of taking action or like learning activities for the IDG. Yeah.
Yeah, and to build on that, you know, previously we focused on figuring out how to teach entrepreneurial thinking competencies, so empathy, resiliency, learning to failure, working with teams. So we had 7 of these skills, and it took us about 8 years to figure out how to teach that. And I think the key is to align your learning theory, your theory of learning. So we use what's called legitimate peripheral participation, is that the students need to learn this by, in our opinion and our research, through participating. And case studies and textbooks and things that are a little bit more traditional passive, these competencies we found not to be as strong, where when they actually get to experience them, and are supported, and we always give the analogy of riding a bike. It's like you have to put them with training wheels and helmets and guide them, but you have to back off within your semester so that they do fail. And that they do run into like friction and resilience, and that's when these skills start to develop. And there's way too many skills in the IDGs or competencies, or however we're going to address these. So we're focusing on a few of them. So for example, the relating to others, we really focus on the empathy and compassion, where humility, connectedness, and appreciation might be a little bit further on in their career, but I'm trying to map those out through their whole 4-year degree, that they're getting exposed to all of them over 4 years, and that we can map those and track them. But for the first year, we're only picking 1 out of each of the 5 areas of the IDGs to really home in on. We're going to highlight it. But then we figure out an exercise or assignment that they have to go into it. And it's their self-reflection on how they didn't succeed, in a sense, on it. And it's not a multiple choice dump or memorize and dump of what are the 23 IDG, you know, competencies. So.
Yeah, just to kind of add one more thing, I love the fact that you're starting with the with kind of the compassion and this kind of the inner values, because that's exactly what I'm trying to do in my own teaching, that kind of starting with the self-awareness piece, because if that's not, the foundation is not set well, then everything else is not necessarily relevant. So really kind of honing in on those values clarification through self-awareness piece. And hence I'm kind of talking about competencies, because competencies is not just skills. It's the values, it's the behavior, it's the knowledge fund that comes with it. So how do you kind of build that together to really enhance that in the students? So I like your approach, and I would love to talk more at some point.
David, I would love to hear how your accounting students shared how accountants could change the world. I don't know if you want to touch on a few examples from there.
Yeah, no, thanks for asking about that. So perhaps maybe a build up on what the students see before they get to the end of term project, where I throw out that pitch to them to say, hey, find an area where you think you as a future accountant can save the world. So I start off the course, we kind of relook at this idea of, okay, let's relook at this idea of the sustainability, climate change fundamentals, look at your own perspectives as well. What is your own carbon footprint? And then we kind of step back just to kind of say, look at where CPA is headed and saying, okay, we need to kind of broaden that scope of what are the expectations of CPAs in the future and what can we provide the value to the economy, the value to the businesses and society around us in terms of the reporting aspects, but also just stepping back and saying, if you're within a business, how do you manage the funds towards initiatives that are either more sustainable, more socially responsible? How do you be mindful of issues that you might see out there in terms of financing or greenwashing or issues around that as well? So we get students to kind of look at all these issues and then step back and say, for me particularly, I kind of left it open-ended to say, I didn't want them to all just focus on green financing or issues around money. I said, let me see you based on what your values are. What do you want to explore? So I had a group of about 50 students. I put them in groups of about 5. I'll let them select themselves, sorry. It was interesting to see the scope of topics where you had mental wellness, you had overfishing. Of course, you had some green financing or scope 3 emissions and some concerns around hesitancy around companies being more forthcoming with their scope 3 emissions as they start to become, as we start to see more I guess demands or things becoming more mandatory over the next little bit, and the hesitancy that they're going to see. How can accountants step in and play a role? So I think for them was more of just saying, can you connect the dots between what you're seeing out there? How do the issues you're looking at, how do you look at it through the lens of the UN SDGs? How do you look at it from the existing sustainability reporting landscape and the alphabet soup that's out there in terms of what companies can pick and choose? And then I think the next biggest piece for them too is I really try to get them to think about the future of reporting, where you think about with the International Sustainability Standards Board and the work that they're trying to do to harmonize the conversations around the reporting landscape around the world. What does that do? So I get students to kind of pick and choose and just say, hey, what are you seeing as good examples that we can learn from? You as a trusted professional in the future, what can you do to help this reporting or to help your companies choose better initiatives? So I think I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent there, but the assignment just tries to get them to tie it all together from that exposure that they're seeing as they're heading into the professional exams, give them a chance to kind of look at that stuff. So hopefully that was a nice little preview.
Thanks so much. Yeah, I just love, well, I've loved hearing from all of you, but getting a sense of how students can expand their thinking in terms of rather than just focusing on their specific subject matter of their program, but connecting it to how it impacts their values, how that impacts their career is really exciting. So I want to thank you for all the really great nuggets and links shared today. I think we're probably going to get bumped into the main room.
Main room soon. Thank you everyone for sharing. So see you in the main room. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you. Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you all had an engaging conversation. There's so many interesting things that people are working on in the breakout room, so it was good to just listen and just catch up with everything happening. So yeah, so thank you so much everyone for joining us today. Just a quick announcement. Please remember you can also post whatever topics. You can post upcoming events on the Teams group, and people, so other people who were not able to join in today can actually as well engage in the conversations going forward. And I'm going to post the link in the chat box. And also a quick reminder on SDG Week Canada, coming up on the 6th to 10th of March. And we've had so many people express their interest to participate, which is really great. We have over 50 participating institutions so far. And last week, as organizing partners, we actually sent out an email having people to send in their calendar of events. If you thought about the event you would like to host during the week, there's a link as well that I'll be sharing in the chat box where you can post about the events you would like to host on your campus during the week. And since the week is coming up and in the spirit of the week, I would actually like to leave us all with a challenge today to get someone else on your campus teaching on the SDGs. And once you're able to do that, please post it on the Teams group so everyone else can see and join in this movement, because it's a movement in getting more people, more faculty members, non-traditional teaching, SDG teaching courses to start and begin to think about how SDGs have been incorporated into their courses over the years and how they can begin to teach on the SDGs. So I'm going to leave everyone that challenge, and just maybe we'd have a gift for the person with the highest number of people, other non-traditional courses on teaching the SDGs, just maybe. So thank you all once again for joining in. I'm going to leave the link right now in the chat box. And if you have any other questions or want to be a part of the community, please leave, you can send me an email and we can then carry on the conversation from there. Thank you all for joining us today.
Ramota,
Yes.
there's 2 people with their hands up. Is it okay to?
Oh, sorry. Yes. Okay.
Okay. No worries.
Yeah.
When it's hard when you're presenting to not.
Yes, I was trying to put in the links as well.
Totally.
Janice, yes, Janice, please go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted
yes.
to. Oh, sorry, actually, were you going to go first?
It was actually just a very quick announcement for the community for the week that is coming up. We are developing global courses for students through Cambridge to be able to get training in delivering the SDGs in their countries, especially students who can't afford to travel to Cambridge and do a 2-year degree for billions of pounds. And I managed to secure for Canada, for our community of practice, an exemption from the £2,000 it normally costs for a student to take the course, because they need to pilot the course before they offer it, to people. And so the students will still get a certificate, and it will be about a 6-hour course. They do have to apply, because we want to have a diversity and a balance in the people who are selected for the scholarships. But I did manage to secure 150 scholarships per course, and there are 4 courses, 6 hours each. What I was hoping to do, if people agree, Ramota has your email addresses. I could include a little bit of extra information about it and the link for where any of your students, or you, because it's any age, they're going to be deputy ministers taking it, who want to learn a little bit more on the law and the policy dimensions of implementing the SDGs. You can sign up, and they'll contact you, and probably just ask a couple questions, and then let you know if you're one of the 150. Only if it's useful. But I did think that since we're one of the only countries to have a community practice of teaching, we should try to at least make the opportunity available to people. And I think it might be one of the only times it's offered for free. So I want to take advantage of that for my colleagues, unless everybody else has £2,000 hanging around. I don't. So I really hope that's helpful, and I'll try to do it as part of SDG Week.
Great. Thank you so much for that, Professor Marie-Claire. Janice, do you want to go ahead?
I just thank you. That's exciting information. Yeah. I just wanted to ask about the submission for the SDG Week events, and if you knew if you can go back and like revise any of your submission details, or do you just have to keep putting in a new one? Because our programming is still in the works a little bit, so we want to update things as they get put in place. How would that work?
You can submit another form online. Do you have the link to the calendar of event? It's
Yeah.
already in the chat box. Great. So
Yeah.
you could submit another form with updated information, and we'll definitely
Okay,
get that.
so
on the
just
back end.
continue to submit
Yes.
an update. Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
No worries. So thank you everyone for coming. It was a great session. I look forward to welcome you all in the next session, and I'll keep you updated on when that would be. But thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.